Alright guys, in this video I'm going to show you guys my 6-step framework that qualifies leads and gives you the exact framework on what you need to say every single time you guys get on a sales call. I talked about this in another video, but I'm going to make another video explaining this today, and what I'm also going to do is go over a qualification call that I had before and kind of some of the notes that I took on that call and things I took away from. Step number 1, the first thing you're going to do is you're always going to get into communication with the prospect. Now, you're not leading off initially going inside your pitch, right? You never want to do. You start by building rapport and obviously taking a little bit of control. Now, what does rapport mean? Rapport doesn't mean asking someone how the weather is. I don't believe that's how you truly build rapport. You need to set yourself apart differently than other salespeople out there. And sometimes what happens is these prospects are actually going to expect you to say certain things just because they've hopped on so many sales calls in the first place. This means that you have to show up confidently, take lead, and set the tone for the entire call. Now, how do you know you're in communication with someone, and what do you do to actually get into communication with someone? The way that you know you're in communication with someone is by actually being able to hear them laugh through the phone. And how do you do this? I'm not saying crack a joke like, hey, why did the chicken cross the road? But what I usually do is I always ask somebody where they're from, right? I always say like, oh, like where am I calling? And then when they tell me, I always crack a joke about where they live. For example, we live in the tri-state area, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. So what I would say is if someone said, oh, I'm from California, they're like, dude, I know we have better pizza than you. It's going to cause a little bit of like, not argument, but it's going to cause a little bit of banter back and forth. It just literally breaks the ice. You only want to spend maybe a minute doing this. And you don't want to move on to each next one of these steps to the next step until you actually complete these first steps. Stick around to the end of this video because I am going to talk about a qualification call that I had today where I got a good amount of objections, and I want to talk about how I handled them and what I did to overcome. Step number 2, you're going to dive into their goal. Their goals, aka their desired outcomes of what they're looking to get by working with you or potentially working with you. What are they trying to solve? What is their overall vision? I always start this question by making it a little broad. You don't want to get too deep into it, be like, hey, how much does your business do right now and how much are you looking to do? That's in the next part. Like, hey, what even had you contact me in the first place? Like, what are you actually looking to do? That one question is you're going to actually get their dominant buying motive, and you're going to actually see where that's going to take the call. These questions are going to create pain and create more desire for your prospect to actually shift their mindset so that they can actually start having goal-oriented thoughts and start giving you goal-oriented answers on this call. You need to extract pain and you need to extract desire. And without that, there will literally be no urgency with your prospect. One thing I want to pause and mention on these sales calls is that it's okay to bring things up on these calls that the prospect might be thinking. Like, it's literally okay. You don't have to go and always stick to a script. What I always say is sometimes be like, hey, I know these questions might sound repetitive, but in order for me to actually understand what you're looking to do, I must ask these questions. These goal-oriented questions are asking your prospect, hey, where do you actually see yourself in the next 6 months if you don't fix something like this? Like, what are you trying to fix first off? What are you doing to get there? What do you feel like you haven't been doing to get there? And what do you feel like you can improve on? These are surface level questions you can ask. Your goal is to get deeper as the call goes on, but these first couple questions are very important. The third step that we follow, and we like to call this senior data, aka data of the highest importance. This is where most salespeople get very shallow. There's a reason why we call it senior level data, because what happens when you graduate high school? You're a senior. You're of the highest importance of the high school, right? You're about to graduate. You're about to go on and do bigger things. Senior level, very high importance. And do not make these questions surface level. Your goal behind the goals was to keep it a little surface level, but you still wanted to get a little deeper. But now we're about to get deep. Most of the prospects that I hop on with are agency clients that want to grow and scale their agency. So I'm going to ask them questions like, okay, where's your business at right now? What is the number? What is the amount of revenue that you're doing right now? 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get the people that are never gonna give you a direct answer. I always ask them, how much revenue are you doing? Well, you know, it all started when I had breakfast this morning, and it really all depends. And you have to stop them. You have to be like, okay, listen, I get that. So how much revenue does your business do? And they're gonna always give you, I don't know why people do this, they're just gonna give you a random ass answer. You have to ask them, how much are you doing? Like, start to finish in a 30-day period, what goes into the business bank account? How much money? And they're most of the time they're going to tell you none, or they're going to tell you, I average usually around, somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 a month. And if they give me a wide range of like $2,000 to $5,000, I'm like, okay, is it 2 or is it 5 or is it 3? Like, what's the number? Be like, I understand that like me asking you this is personal, but understand that I'm not trying to dig into your personal info. I'm just trying to understand where you're at, so see if I can even help. This is also for you to gauge how much help they may need from. If they say, oh, well, I'm at $10,000 a month and I want to get to 20, okay, there may not be as much work on your end, and there may not be as many things that you need to do to help them, because you know that they're already making money. They just might need a couple extra tweaks just to get them to that next level. And if they tell you that they're at 0, you know you're gonna have to do a little bit of work to get. Keep in mind that in between each one of these steps, I'm using transition phrases. So, for example, if I'm starting with the first step, which is getting into communication with someone, and then I want to transfer into the goals, I'm not just gonna go, okay, now that I got into communication with you, now we're gonna go into your goals. No, because then they know you're fucking reading off a script, or I don't like to read off a script, but they might sense that you might be reading off a script or a framework. You don't want to do that. This entire process, this entire call is to make it sound like you are not reading off of any framework and you are just being natural. So I'm going to use transition phrases. After I get them to laugh, like I'm literally going to say something along the lines of this. Oh, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from New York. Oh, I'm from Jersey. We got better pizza. Oh, no, we don't got better. Like, yeah, you know, people always say that, haha. Like, all right, sweet. So now, just so I can understand, we talked here and there, boom, 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 then you get into it. I usually say like, okay, so, or with that being said, or something like. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get into the actual qualification. This is step 4. Your goal here is to qualify the buyer, meaning you're going to find out if they are actually committed. You're not just qualifying their business, you're qualifying them, and you're also qualifying their decision making. You're also qualifying to see if they are financially able to pay you money or invest money with. You're also finding out, like, are they in a position to take action? How committed are they to their actual goals? How committed are they to them actually telling you everything that they told you? Because this part of the call is qualifying them. You're either going to do one of two things after this point. You're qualifying them, meaning you're seeing if they are even a good fit for them to even do this. So you may not even move on to the next step. In this part of the qualification, I'm letting the prospect know, and I'm even saying this exact line. I'm saying, listen, I understand that you probably have heard this before, and you probably have heard a bunch of people say this, and how they say, oh, I don't really work with everyone. You hear this, you hear the people out there, the gurus out there that are like, oh, we don't work with anyone. We only work with certain people, and then they fucking sell anyone they want. No, that's not what I do. I actually don't do that. Like, I actually will only work with people if I do feel like it's a good fit. There are times where I disqualify people all the time. That's why we call this the qualification call. So I'm asking them questions like, listen, is this just a side project, or are you actually genuinely committed to potentially doing something like this, like getting your business off the ground? Like, where are you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to let you know, oh no, I'm 100% committed. Everyone's the most committed person until they got to whip out their credit card. So this is where I filter people very hard. If they're not qualified, I don't go and pitch anything to them. I literally won't even let them know a price, and I won't even let them know anything. I'm just say, hey, look, it looks like we're not really at the right point for us to work together. I have a free school community. You can go and join that. You can go and learn a bunch from that, but it doesn't really seem like, you're either in the position, or I really, honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really feel like you might be the most committed person that we're looking for, which is completely okay. You might just have to work on that, and then we'll circle back to this in a couple months or a couple weeks, but really just all depends. If they're qualified, you move on to step number 5. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering throughout this entire video, like, oh, when am I going to drop the price? If you watch my other video, you know that we always schedule the call before we drop the price. Then we drop the price after we schedule the call. We want to make sure we get the call on the calendar. This is pushing the deal a little bit forward before just being like, hey, it's $5,000, or hey, it's 10 grand, hey, it's 20 grand. Like, we don't say it like that. So you're going to see how I do it now. So now what we're doing is we're actually going to set the demo, meaning we're going to set the Zoom call. The way I like to do this is to say, okay, cool. Now what I'm going to do is we can schedule a Zoom call. We'll kind of run through the rest of this. I might tell them a little bit before this about what it is that we do, how we're going to be able to help them. I'm going to run through a couple bullet points of what we do in there before I actually tell them, like, okay, let's hop on the Zoom. When I'm setting the demo, I'm literally doing a Google Calendar invite. I'm attaching a Zoom link in there, and I'm sending it to them, getting their email. I'm making sure that they accept it. They click yes. I'm double confirming that time works for the both of us. I'm really locking this appointment down. I'm saying, hey, you obviously have a laptop with a camera, right? And they're like, yeah, okay. That's making sure, saying, hey, letting them know before they even hop on. You see a lot of these guys, like, they get their prospects, they get on their Zoom calls, and they won't even turn on their cameras. That's because they never set the precedent before the actual Zoom call. So you want to make sure that they're actually, hey, you have a laptop and a camera, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. One of the reasons I'm asking is because joke around. Be like, sometimes I hop on people, they don't do their makeup, or they don't really want to, like, turn on their camera, which honestly, I find a little goofy. I feel like if we're gonna potentially work together, you gotta put a face to the name, right? And they're like, oh yeah, they'll agree with you. Ha. Keep them laughing throughout the whole call. Like, don't just like keep it so serious. But there are times where you have to get serious, which transitions into the next part, which is the money. This last part is the most important part, and you need to have a serious, authoritative tone when it comes to this part. This is where you're talking about the most intimate thing two people can ever do in their life, is either transact money with each other or talk about money with each other. Believe it or not, that is one of the most intimate things you could do with somebody, is talk about money and transact money. It's just like when two married people are combining bank accounts, if that's what they want to do. It's very, very, very intimate. So make sure this part is very serious. Detach yourself from the outcome. This is the part where this is almost like the American Idol, where you're on your last audition and like you're either going to make it or break it, because this is really going to make the whole thing. This is where you're going to like, you're dropping the price to the prospect. They've been wondering this the whole call. Like, you have to really sandwich this. Now there's multiple ways to do this, but understand this. When you're bringing up the price, you're not just saying, oh, the price is $5,000. You're asking them if they could justify a price, right? You're saying, hey, the investment is this. Is that something, obviously, I'm going to walk you through everything on the Zoom call, right? I'm not stress to them. I'm not asking you to make a decision right now. This call is just to see if we might be a good fit to work for each other, right? What's going to happen is on that Zoom call, I'm going to walk you through everything. We're really going to dive into what you're doing, what we do. I'm going to show you more about what we do. I'll show you some client testimonials. We'll go through everything. At the end of the Zoom call, obviously, if everything did make sense to you, I would make you an offer, right? If I make you an offer, I mean, I would obviously, or while we're on the call, I would ask you to invest into your business and yourself, right? So my question to you is, would you be able to justify a XYZ investment in order to be able to do XYZ? So if someone wants to scale their business, I would say, dude, just out of curiosity, would you be able to justify a $5,000 investment in order for you to be able to create that lead generation system that you've been wanting, so that you can create consistent leads, so that you can make more money in your business and you're not shooting with no clarity? If everything did make sense to you on that Zoom call. And they're either going to say yes or no, right? Most of the time, people are going to say no. And you're going to say, okay, cool. If they, or honestly, I shouldn't say most of the time they're going to say no. I should say sometimes they're going to say yes and sometimes they're going to say no. Now, when are they going to say yes? What baffles my mind sometimes is that some people say yes when they literally don't even have the money to do it. And I'm like, how can you say that? Whatever. So this is what's going to happen. It's either going to go one or two ways. If they say yes, that's something I could justify. You're stressing to them, okay, I'm not asking you to make a decision right now, but I'm asking you, is that something you could justify if everything did make sense on the Zoom call? And they say yes. Be like, okay, cool, great. Just out of curiosity, is that $5,000 something that you actually do have saved up at the moment? And they're like, yeah. Be like, okay, cool. You don't have to do anything else from there. Once you do that, then you're literally basically almost getting off the call. But if they say no, I can't justify that. Be like, dude, I totally understand. I gotcha. Just out of curiosity, is that because, are you saying that because you might not have the money, or are you saying that because you don't believe in investing in yourself? Like, which one would you think it would be? And they're going to tell you, most of the time people aren't going to say, I don't believe in investing in myself. If they tell you they don't believe in investing in themselves, this could either go one or two ways. You really have to choose if you want to work with this prospect, or you challenge them on their own beliefs. Like, you literally challenge their thought process on, like, dude, do you really think you're going to be able to, do you think you're going to be able to create passive income in the future without investing into anything? And they're going to say no. Be like, okay, so what makes it different right now? Things like that. You could challenge their beliefs. Keep in mind, these calls, you want to make sure these prospects are honestly almost closed before they even get to the Zoom call. Like, you really want to be able to answer all their questions. These qualification calls are very important. But, so this is what's going to happen. Okay, if they say, well, no, I just don't have the money, I'd be like, okay, cool. Just out of curiosity, would money be the only thing holding you back? Like, assuming everything else checked out, obviously, again, I'm not asking you to make a decision right this second, but I'm curious, would money be the only thing holding you back if everything did make sense? And they're going to say, yeah. And then you say, dude, all right, I gotcha. Dude, money's the last thing I'm worried about. You almost want to have the attitude of, like, let me handle it, right? Dude, I'm probably the easiest person you'll do business with, right? I'm more concerned about actually helping you and putting you in a position to win, just so I can understand, how much would you say you do have saved up to the moment? I'm just curious so I can help you the best, right? Notice my tonality isn't just aggressive. You're talking about money, keep it very soft, right? Dude, just so I can understand, how much would you say you have saved up at the moment? And they're going to tell you. Or if they're like, oh, I'm not telling you, I don't feel comfortable, be like, dude, I get it. It's very, very, very uncomfortable for someone to ask somebody that, right? Yeah, okay. Just understand this. Help me help you. I'm trying to get you to point B. In order for me to get you to point B, you need to understand point A. And then ask him again, how much would you say I've saved up at the moment? This is where you get a little bit more, you get their, how much I have saved, what they might have on available credit, whatever it is that you want to do. Then what's going to happen is if they don't have the funds, then you could say something along the lines of this, right? If they say, oh, I have $500 saved, you always flow them power. Dude, props to you for even having $500 saved. Do you know that the average American is like one bill away from like a huge financial hardship? Like they're one flat tire away from not being able to pay for anything. So props to you for having $500 because a lot of the people I talk to don't even have that. That's what I usually say. So once you do that, you say, oh, most people don't ever have anything close to what our investment is, right? But just curious, if everything did make sense, you'd be potentially like open to maybe leveraging your credit to help fund the investment, right? And if they say yes, say, okay, great. Just so I can get a better understanding of your situation, so I can know how to best help you, how would you say your credit is looking currently, right? And when they tell you that, you want to stress this big time. Look, dude, all right, dude, no worries about that. Like, I'm sure we might be able to come up with a game plan, but obviously I want to make sure this all makes sense for the both of us. I'm not asking you to commit to anything you haven't seen yet. With that being said, if everything does make sense to you, I'm sure we can come up with a game plan. Let's, you don't want to have like so much certainty where you're like, oh, dude, we can definitely come up with a game plan, like 100%. And then they're like, oh, this guy's gonna like steamroll me. I think we might be able to come up with a plan. Let's focus more on you. Let's focus more on actually hopping on the call, on the Zoom, so that we can actually make sure, boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Now, that's literally it. 9 times out of 10, you want to get the prospect to hop directly into the demo. You don't want to really delay. You don't want to put it off. Time kills all deals. So you want to try to get them to hop in, but 2 rules I never have. I never hop on with someone that doesn't have their camera on, or I will not even go into the Zoom call if they don't have their camera on. I literally will not refuse. I will refuse to take the call if they don't have their camera on. Number 2, if they're in the car, I'm not doing it. You want to make sure they're in a quiet room. Most of the time, people are not in buyer decision mode. Most of the time at all, but let alone a car. So that's what we want to do. Last thing you want to do is if you're hopping directly into Zoom, don't hop off the phone until they're in Zoom with their camera on and they're ready to go. If you're setting the demo for a later time or the next day, you want to make sure they show up. So you want to say something along the lines of, dude, you want to lock this down, lock the time down. Dude, I have a very packed schedule each day. I'm sure you're busy as well. Just out of respect for everyone's time, like other than anything else that you think that can come up, like can you think of any reason on why you wouldn't be on the call, right? Do you have any more questions for me? Do you have any concerns? Do you have anything you want to bring up to me right now, right? Nope? Okay, cool. You sure? I got like a couple more minutes. You sure? Yes. Okay, cool. Before we hop off here, any more questions? Nope. Again, I'll catch you on Zoom. I'll send you a text about an hour before, and we'll hop on there and we'll get rocking and rolling. And that's literally it. So that's how you do a qualification call. Now, I had a call with a guy this morning or this afternoon, and he was getting pressed that I was asking him questions, right? He was getting pressed. He was like, this call kind of went sideways. And I was like, okay, well, what do you mean by the call went sideways? He's like, well, I was just coming to you for some tips, and now you're here pitching me this service that you wanted me to pay for. I said, dude, I don't want you to pay for anything. You don't have to pay for anything you're not comfortable with. But just out of curiosity, like, can I challenge you for a second? He's like, yeah. I said, you came to me asking for help, but now when I'm offering you help, did you think it was going to be free? He's like, no, I didn't think it was going to be free. I'll be like, okay, cool. Do you feel like by me asking you these questions, like, how do you feel by me asking these questions? He's like, well, I don't really know. I said, well, dude, be honest with you. These are probably questions you should be taking notes on. You should be asking your prospects as well. Because right now, what you're doing is you're avoiding, the main thing you need to do, and that's get your business to the next level. And I know it's uncomfortable, but these are literally the questions you need to be asking your prospects. So don't let the prospects steamroll you. Like, prospects are going to try to take the frame. Prospects are going to try and take the power away from you. Do not let that happen. Like, you do not do that. We are closers at the end of the day. Do not let them take the power away from you. Like, continue with the call. Like, you need to steamroll. Like, you need to understand what steamrolling is and how to steam. I asked this prospect today too. I was like, dude, I said, he's like, well, I'm not even looking to buy. I'm not really, I don't even have the money to make an investment. Like, and I said, dude, I'm not asking you to make an investment right this second. I would never ask you to make an investment on something that you haven't even seen and it doesn't even make sense to you. I don't even know if this does make sense for you yet. He's like, oh, well, we're gonna have to see it though. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know. That's why we're having a Zoom call after this. I said, but understand this. I have to ask you this honest question. If I literally gave you the exact process to take your agency from point A to point B and actually helped you get to the numbers that you want to get to by doing all the things that we're going to show you and the lead generation system that we're going to build you, you mean to tell me that that's not worth an investment? Like, did you think that you're going to never invest money into your business? You're doing a startup. Like, did you think you would have to invest no money? He's like, well, no, when you put it that way, it makes more sense. I go, exactly. So I'll catch you on the Zoom call, and that's it. Guys, this is exactly how I do my qualification calls, literally from A through Z. I've done this. My business partner and I, we've done over $10 million as sales reps for a company using this exact framework, right? This framework works. This is a framework that I adopted and that I tweaked. This is not like I learned this. I was trained to do this, right? So understand that I've used this literal exact framework on literally every single sales call that I've ever done since I learned this. And this is what works for me. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to have the sales reps and the closers and the business owners that do a one-call close. There's a time and a place for a one-call close. But for now, this is what I do, and I will do this for the time being until I have a big enough personal brand where I don't need to do a two-call close. Most people will know the price is coming directly, and they're going to, eventually just want to just buy from me. So that's it. But that's how you do a qualification call. Try this out and let me know how it goes. I guarantee if you listen to the tips in this video, I'm pretty sure you guys will see some significant results compared to what you have been doing and the way that you've been trained in the past. So let me know in the comments below exactly how this works for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, if you got value from this, if you got value from me, it would really, really mean a lot. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys have any suggestions for any more videos you want to see, if you want me to go over any sales objections or whatever it is, then write in the comments down below and we'll go from there.